favorite here. It looks like players are drawing hands right now, so maybe we'll be able to take a look and see what's going on here. And yeah, continuing the thought, I do think Zach is going to be favored in game one. Just having that reactive nature is going to be very powerful. And it looks like actually we are looking at the other matchup, which is going to be Connor playing against Nicole Dubin. Connor is the MVP of the 2022 year. And interestingly enough, Connor is someone who I would normally call an Azorius Hammer player. So I did mention earlier, when you're prepping for these kind of events, you said to stay consistent, but here we have Connor completely swapping decks. And honestly, this is really cool to see, just showing, his range in the modern format, and just being able to show like how he can adapt. And let's talk about this matchup a little bit, Julian. Who do you think is ahead in the Rakdos scam matchup against the 4-color mid-range matchup?
So I haven't played this matchup all that much, but from the data I've gathered, Rakdos is supposed to be somewhat advantaged against most control decks, usually against blue-white control. Against 4-color control that we see on Nicole's side here, I'm not too sure, even though it should play out similarly. The additional removal that Nicole might have could help her here quite a bit. But I don't know. I kind of want to be on the side of just like the value train. And I think the value train is actually on Connor's station right now. That's just, you wouldn't really think of it like that. Black Red really has a history of like being aggressive, but this deck, together with like the Undying Malice and Feign Death and all that kind of stuff, you get to like produce tons of value, including like Seasoned Pyromancer on the late game. It's not like, I'm not even sure if Nicole has an inevitability in the matchup. So if Connor gets to pull ahead and like maybe even leverage Doughty Voidwalker really well, I could see him taking that. I kind of want to see the card.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of value, take a look at Nicole's hand here. She's got Omnath, Renin 6. Mana is maybe the most lacking element here. Thoughts he's going to reveal the hand and take Omnath, which is very interesting here. I saw Boseiju and I saw Stomping Ground. Do you think that might be one of the reasons why we didn't go for the Renin 6?
I mean, probably, right? Yeah, I would very much think so. So there's Voidwalker coming in, putting on the pressure. So, excuse me. Even if you get Renin 6 down, you would be able to put some pressure on it. I didn't catch the full glimpse of Nicole's hand. Was there any removal in Nicole's hand?
I think I saw a copy of Lightning Bolt.
Yeah. It's also kind of interesting when you think about it. Nicole is incentivized to deal with these creatures while Connor is tapped out, because Connor could always have like the Feign Death or something to get some extra value on respawns. But of course, that once again screws up her sequencing.
Yeah, that's a really good point too, right? So I know you and I, we played a lot of Legacy, and so we're familiar with a lot of the metagame there. It's kind of just like playing around cards like Touch the Spirit Realm and things like that in the mono white matchups. But okay, this is interesting. So we're going to fetch Flooded Strand, get the Steam Vents, likely shocking, and maybe, like you mentioned, just bolting immediately to play around the potential for the Doughty Voidwalker to come back. Like you mentioned, Doughty Voidwalker looks really good against the Renin 6, and we did have the Flooded Strand too, to give the Renin 6 value. So it's very important that this gets taken care of right now.
Yeah, and now we would guess, right, Renin 6 just to come down. I mean, it's pretty scripted from here. And we'll see whether Connor actually has anything going on here. I'm pretty sure there should be Lightning Bolts on Connor's deck. Let me double check that. Yeah, there's 4 copies of Lightning Bolts, but now it's Renin 6 having to have to 4. That's not the greatest. And Fable of the Mirror Breaker, multi-format all-star. I'm still waiting for it to really make its break in vintage, but dude, I'm so much in love with this card. And I also love the choice of tokens that players bring to the matchup. I've seen some players use like Pokemon cards. I don't know what this is exactly, but dude, I'm down for any kind of token that's unique.
Now, this is interesting. I believe the Flooded Strand may need to be exiled to the Doughty Voidwalker. So the Renin 6 may not be able to pick that up. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but we'll get confirmation on that really quickly. Either way, Renin 6 now in play, Fable also in play here. This is the sort of, I mean, like you mentioned, value. I guess Connor only has 2 cards in hand, but Fable is the kind of card that really can just bring you back out of nowhere.
Was Connor like on a big mulligan? There should be quite a lot more cards in his hand, right? Because that's gonna make him run out of steam like really quickly. And at that point, like Nicole's sitting here with 2 Planeswalkers against a Fable that hasn't really done anything yet, even though it's an amazing card. Nicole is like very, very comfortably in the driver's seat here. And yeah, we're getting rid of 2 more cards, 2 more lands that we certainly don't need. And I think there's another land on the pickup and could be another Doughty Voidwalker. This is not really what you need at this point in the game. Nicole is already like way too far ahead. And I'm I'm not sure how good the scam deck really is at catching up, especially once you're down on cards.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think I have to agree with you. Right, one of the elements at least in the early game for the scam deck is that it has a very aggressive, a violent burst of pressure early on, whether it's like maybe grief or some sort of leveraging the Undying tools basically to create some sort of overwhelming advantage, or maybe having something must answer like a Ragavan or something like that. On a mulligan low on resources where your first few threats have been answered, it's not looking really good here for Connor at all. And I would like to correct myself as well. The Flooded Strand was actually fetched in response to the Dauthi Voidwalker. Exactly. So that's how we were able to get back the Flooded Strand earlier on. It doesn't actually get exiled. Everything's good.
Yeah, everything's good from Nicole's side, at least. Connor is in big trouble here. I'm looking at decklist right now. I mean, you already mentioned, right, that the is there like a uniform word for all these like feign death, undying effects? I guess undying is the one. All these undying effects, they are great, but you need a creature to stick. And if you're pushed into a position where you try to like randomly cast it on your creature, like this is not the kind of game you can cut back into by casting creatures and attacking with them. But also, Connor doesn't really have a way to take out the Planeswalkers, as far as I'm aware. So this Ren 6 might ultimate like really quickly, and from there, this is I'm not sure what the path into the game, back into the game for Connor is, but I mean, you still play the game. Fable going quote unquote ultimate, but it's gonna get destroyed in response. Yeah, Procedure taking it out. Another land for Connor. At least he's got the mana advantage.
Which is not nothing, right? Because at some point, like let's say you get a couple critical draw steps, perhaps you could draw cards like Fury to hardcast. That would be pretty good here.
Yeah, Fury would at least take out one of the Planeswalkers and could also like leave Nicole. I think Nicole has a Subtlety still in hand, so she's pretty much covered against a Fury trying to go after Ren 6. And oh yeah, this is great. This is great. Young Paraman's actually one of those cards that might allow you to catch up just by going wide, even though Ren 6 might be able to take off like some of the tokens, but the beatdown is going to be too fast to really just rely on Ren 6. So we're going to need something like Subtlety to maybe take out the Planeswalker. But then again, you're in a spot where the Dauthi Voidwalker can't really be blocked by anything you have. So is the Subtlety actually going to go after the Voidwalker? I'm not sure. There's so much value in just exiling the Pyromancer, but Nicole is going to show us how it's actually going to be done, I guess.
And just to clarify, you're talking about Solitude?
Solitude, yeah. Did I say Subtlety?
Yeah, it's okay. It's very hard to, yeah. But actually, one thing I want to mention is that speaking of being behind and catching up, the Seasoned Pyromancer play that last turn for Connor was very good, right? Being able to empty your hand out, play the Dauthi Voidwalker, and then Seasoned Pyromancer to functionally just draw 2 cards is super sweet.
Yeah, it's such a powerful card. It took me so long to really catch on to what it does in different kind of matchups, but I can appreciate it. As long as you run Fables to go along with it, because I would feel like that card is just like so busted. And yeah, Connor knows what's up, right? Connor knows what's up. If Nicole passes here with like all the mana in the world up, he probably expects Solitude, but it also depends on, can you really avoid trying to play around it? And I think we're just gonna, are we gonna send both in? I mean, there's also some weird value in just trying to keep your Voidwalker around to eventually try to snatch something out of Nicole. And I guess that's what we're gonna try and do.
Oh, check this out. All right, only Seasoned Pyromancer coming in to the red zone here. Ren 6 is going to go down to 5.
And there's both no. We got Fury in hand and Grief, right? And this is what you called. This is the hardcast Fury. Now we are making all the haymakers.
Oh, check this out. And we're distributing the damage from Fury across the Planeswalkers, preventing the Teferi from ticking down with its ultimate ability to draw a card, which is pretty powerful. Allows you to keep your board in place, and then also, any extra value here on the Ren 6. We take it.
It would also allow you to cast your own Teferi if you want. So I'm in love with Voidwalker, dude. This is one of the coolest cards that have been printed in the last couple of years, I want to say.
That's true, actually. Yeah, Voidwalker has been the kind of card that I've seen mostly paired with Helm of Obedience. But in Modern, I feel like it does a lot. Why don't you tell me like what is the value of a card like Voidwalker in this deck?
So that's usually you can appreciate cards either by their absolute overall impact or by how much of a field they cover. And I think Voidwalker does both kind of in a way. Like I think Modern right now might be maybe the most graveyard-centric format. in competitive Magic right now. It's just like so many things going there. And having that additional value, right? You already have this creature, 3/2, basically unblockable for 2 mana. And synergizes very well with what you're doing, like the discard stuff. So eventually could get something out of there. So, and in addition, you get main deck Graveyard Hate, which against a lot of decks, let's say Breach or like the Chakmoth deck, like so many different decks, this is just going to give you so much extra value out of a creature that's already okay by itself. And yeah, that's why I'm so much in love with the card here.
I mean, you could even see in this matchup, right? Being able to affect a card like Ren and 6 is a pretty big deal. Being able to potentially, like, look at the pickle of the situation that we're in right now. And I don't know, that's just a charming phrase to me. But, you know, in this situation, you know, you have Fury. Okay, like if the Teferi dies, then the Voidwalker can maybe take the Teferi, but then the Solitude now needs to come down. And you want the Solitude to go after the Fury because that is the most frightening threat on the other side of the board here. Okay, you can see that happen. Solitude's going to come into play. It's going to get rid of the Fury with the triggers on the stack. And resolution of Fury's trigger now. That's going to get rid of the Teferi. Ren and 6 going to go down to 4 loyalty. Looks like we're...
So what are the cards that are actually under Voidwalker? There's Teferi under Voidwalker. There's a Fetchland under Voidwalker. And I think the Prismatic Ending and the Lightning Bolt are not. I guess that's what the dice over there is for. Now he's Fury back.
Oh.
You know,
I like this impression.
You know, there's a saying in Legacy about the player who Furies second is usually the one coming out ahead. I wonder if this is, yeah, I mean, it very much looks like it, right? And after dust has settled, we're still sitting there on a Planeswalker on 4 and a Solitude with, well, still 2 cards in Connor's hands. I already called him dead earlier, and he made an impressive comeback, so I'm hesitant to do it again. But yeah, Grief gonna take out a card. Oh no.
Oh, that is brutal. So I see Expressive Iteration, Endurance, Boseiju, and this last card, is that Otawara?
Yeah, that's Otawara. And it's so hard to say, right? Do you take the Expressive Iteration here? I mean, you don't really care about the beatdown, I would guess, but still good enough. Okay. I'll take out the Endurance.
I will say one thing. I'm going to give props here to Connor, the way Connor's played this game. Even being down resources, you know, being able to, like, the way that Fury came down from Nicole's side didn't even really feel like it made much of an impact, right? They killed the Seasoned Pyromancer, but then the Dathi Voidwalker traded with the Fury using its ability, taking the Lightning Bolt. So I think that's, honestly, the way the game state is, despite Connor having played from the back foot for what seems like the entire game, I think he's put himself in a reasonable position to maybe steal this game 1.
Oh, you think Connor's still going to take this?
I think he's got a real chance here, right? He's got really a couple powerful cards. Like, so here's what I would say. From this point onward, you know, we have to think about what are the kind of cards that Connor would have to draw to win, you know, while Nicole is, you know, still grinding out value with Red and 6, Expressive Iteration. And I would have to say you fight value with value. And finding these hard castable elementals is exactly the kind of card or the type of card that will bring Connor back in. So if he gets a little bit lucky with the draw steps, then I think he'll have a good chance. But maybe like the gesture of how he exiled the Grief here signals that the rest of his hand doesn't look so good.
But he doesn't really seem to be too happy in the spot that he's in right now. And there's always the clock ticking, right? Red and 6 goes ultimate. You're going to have so many lightning bolts coming your way. It's going to be really hard to make anything happen. But what do we see here? We see a lightning bolt in Connor's hand that can't really... I guess that can deal with the Solitude if it needs to. Doesn't really feel great, of course. Yeah, just main phase trade with this. And that's it. I don't feel good. I don't feel good about Connor, but like I said, I already called him that earlier. We see Erdemri's Call in Nicole's hand. Erdemri's Call can get an Omnath, I would guess, like on an empty board. Could also get like a backup Solitude or something. Pretty good spot for her.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe there are 2 copies of Endurance as well in Nicole's deck list. So that is another card that you could get here. I saw Teferi, Time Raveler was the draw step that turn. And this is going to be maybe one of the more terrifying things. Just the kind of comfort you get from Teferi's passive ability. You get to know that, you know, like, you can't really be responded to. You have full agency, full control. And this is the kind of deck that will also be able to just leverage the value of Teferi so well. So, you know, with the Red and 6 on 7, putting Teferi into play now is maybe the final blow, because you're putting pressure, more pressure, and more pressure, and more pressure. There's already the wound, and you're just like, applying more pressure there. You can see Connor picks up his card, says, all right, this game's not going anywhere. Let's start the sideboarding.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of sideboarding, I do want to kind of evaluate where we are with this. So why don't we start with Connor's side? Perhaps we could take a look at Connor's deck list and see what is in the sideboard that might be good here. We'll see a copy of Seasoned Pyromancer, Kroxa, Fable, Engineered Explosives, and Unlicensed Hearst. Hidetsugu consumes all Fatal Push, Blood Moon, and I believe that is a Torok, Dread Cantor. Anything here strike your fancy?
I think the very first thing I would be looking at is, of course, Blood Moon. If you get it down, for example, even as early as turn 2, if you get a Ragavan down in the first turn, you could really screw the opponent's mana base. Even though I gotta say that those 4-color mana bases, they're not as fragile as it would sound. Usually they have basics. They also have procedure to take out your Blood Moon. But I would think that's certainly something that you bring in just to like make the next couple of turns very messy, with the potential upside of straight up winning the game. Turaj, I could see like the Gaia's protection from Wild, which basically means protection from Solitude and Prismatic Ending. Could be another card that's really annoying to deal with while also producing additional card advantage. And then from there, it really depends. I guess you could bring, if you want to go toe-to-toe with the control deck and try to play a mid-range control game, you could bring in Fables and Kroxas and Seasoned Pyromancers. And technically, I guess, take out some of your more synergy-heavy cards. I guess something like Lightning Bolt is an easy cut. But then, do you want to take out some of your Undying Malices or Feign Death? I don't know.
That's a really good question, actually. You brought a lot of really interesting points into consideration. So the first thing I would think about is, Blood Moon, right? One noticeable difference between the current 4-color mid-range decks, especially with Nicole's list, right? What's missing, right? Well, obviously Yorion got banned recently, and with Yorion going away, you actually lose access or the power of cards that you normally be blinking with Yorion, like Icewind, Coatl, and most notably Abundant Growth. Those are missing. So Blood Moon actually does ramp in power, but then you bring up a very good point that Boseiju is one of those answers that you can access just by basic forest. So that's one thing. The second thing too is that this is a really interesting question. How has Connor really mapped out his sideboard plan here? Does he think the Undying effects are going to be really good? Because if you look at the removal suite, that's what's really important to analyze, right? If your opponent is playing Solitudes and Leyline Bindings and Prismatic Endings, certainly the Undying effects get a lot worse. But Nicole's deck list, which we'll take a look at right now, has Lightning Bolt in there. So the removal suite is a little bit different because, you've got Lightning Bolt and you do have Prismatic Ending and Solitude, but you very low on the Leyline Bindings, just the one Leyline Binding. So it really depends on how you evaluate Lightning Bolt in the mix of this thing. If you think that is a real enough threat to merit more Undying effects, maybe you sideboard that way. But speaking of the 4-color deck, why don't we just take a look at this list first and talk about sideboarding here with Surgical Extraction, Endurance, Veil of Summer, Supreme Verdict, Engineered Explosives, Chalice of the Void, and Force of Vigor. What are the cards that you like here? Also, notably Kahira, but probably not going to board that one in.
Yeah, that would be a first time. If you believe that the Undying effects are going to stay in, then you would certainly bring in Chalice, right? Chalice is a way to shut down like a ton of cards on Connor's deck. Other than that, Force of Vigor, no. Engineered Explosives, no. Supreme Verdict, also not a big fan. Veil of Summer probably going to come in. And then... Surgical is probably too cute. I wouldn't go after that. But something like Veil of Summer, and it looks weird, right? If you bring in Chalice and Veil of Summer. Then again, you mentioned the Lightning Bolts, right? If you bring in Chalice and you keep your own Lightning Bolts, you're going to put yourself in a really weird position. I
would almost hazard that the Chalice of the Voids are probably for other matchups, maybe for like Living End or like if you really want it Breach. But Breach decks like Chalice, that's like a whole bucket of worms, like a whole can of worms. And for this matchup, though, it's kind of interesting. I think we can both agree that Veil of Summer is probably going to be very good here. Just reminiscent of like using it to maybe stop triggers from Grief or maybe like Cryptic Command, a Thoughtseize. Veil of Summer is going to be fantastic in this matchup. And then you could even look at the Endurance too if you want to somehow mess around with the graveyard. There are cards like Kroxa that you do need to be aware of, and having Endurance is a very clean answer to the 2-mana side of Kroxa.
Yeah, I'm even wondering whether you might bring in something like Force of Vigor as a 1 or 2 of. Probably not, because Leyline Binding kind of covers that. Even though I think we mentioned there's how many Leyline Bindings do we have here? Let me check again.
I think there's just one Leyline Binding in Nicole's deck list. Yeah.
Okay, so that's gonna make it a little bit more awkward, because Connor could also like we mentioned have the Blood Moon. It also takes out the Fable of the Mirror Breaker, and post-board, we're probably going to be dealing with 4 Blood Moons, so that's another way to get rid of it without having to rely on your mana base. But of course, overall, it's not really a great card matchup, which of course makes it great for Connor, right? If you ever put your opponent in a position where they kind of want to bring in a card, but it's really not very good. But if they can't answer the card that they're supposed to answer this, the game's just like going to crumble. That's the kind of deck building and the kind of like strategy I want to put into here. And I'm curious. I'm curious whether Blood Moon is actually going to be dominating here.
Yeah, it really is interesting because I think you have to basically choose a sideboard configuration that maximizes the power of Blood Moon. I think Blood Moon is one of those cards where, you know, you could try for the cheeky one of to maybe like generate value randomly, but being on the play, having a ways to sort of aggress. Look at this hand right now. I see Ragavan, I see Blood Moon, both players keep, and this could be deadly as fast as turn 1.
Yeah, we got Lightning Bolt. We don't know if Nicole has it, but since we're fetching on the first turn, I would think that's going to be it, right? There's not too many turn 1 things that we might actually be doing here. Okay, Prismatic Ending is another way to get rid of it. What
okay, there it is.
Yeah. Play do we have here? See a Seasoned Pyromancer on hand. I think there might be. Can't really tell what the other ones are. There's another land, I believe. For the couple of early turns, right, Connor's going to be calling the shots. Like Connor's going to tell us what's up, and Nicole will certainly have to react here. So, like Nicole's probably going to make just like land drops here. This is an opening for a run 6, I guess. Interesting, by the way, we didn't see Connor evoke Grief earlier on. Maybe there's no black card to pitch, or maybe just like straight up didn't want to, because that would have been a way to try and protect Ragavan. But I think there might have been a black card or a black card that he actually wants to pitch there.
It's also very likely maybe that you're just trying to get to 4 mana and hard cast the Grief. The elementals are significantly better when you spend the full mana on them. One thing that I do want to mention, though, is that no turn 2 play here from Nicole, just the Windswept Heath pass. And maybe this is a nod to a potential Blood Moon saying, hey, all right, if you do play Blood Moon the next turn, I want to have my mana available. I want to be able to get my basic forest, because keep in mind, turn 1, Flooded Strand fetch for a Shockland, right? So Blood Moon, that's a juicy target for Blood Moon, but maybe the mana base could stabilize here. And look at that, Blood Cryptid draw here for Connor.
Yeah, and you would think, right, that must be the slam on the Blood Moon. I guess you could run out the Pyromancer if you really wanted to, maybe make it so. Okay, now we're making sure. Okay, do you have anything to answer my Blood Moon? Do I rather want to run out the Pyromancer here? Let me show you. Okay.
Oh, wow, and look at this.
Everything.
Grief is going to reveal a pretty insane hand here of Boseiju, which is maybe the most important card. It can't be targeted by Grief either. Odawara, Flooded Strand, Renin 6, Omnath, and Expressive Iteration. And this is a stacked hand when you're trying to beat Blood Moon, right? You've got access to your basic forest for the Boseiju. Flooded Strand can get you basic island even if you need to. Renin 6 can buy you back more lands. Expressive. There's so much value. Honestly, right now, Connor, you can sort of see his hands right now. Just like he's like praying right now. He's just like, well, I'm sorry, Father, forgive me, for I have sinned. I did not mean to walk into this. Oh my goodness. What do you take here?
Dude, yeah, I was gonna say we're sitting in the commentator's booth, but if you're sitting there in Connor's seat, like, what do you take? Do you take like the Planeswalker, because that's the card that has potential biggest upside? But then again, like, you don't really want to leave Nicole with Omnath or like Expressive Iteration is probably the card you want to leave her the most, because it's the most mana intensive in the long run.
Also very uncastable right now too.
Yeah, true. Okay, but now
Omnath is going to be the take here, and we sort of saw that as well. In game 1, right? We saw Thoughtseizes, and Connor said, all right, Omnath is the most terrifying card here. A repeat performance by Omnath is kind of interesting. As Blood Moon comes into play, that's going to fetch the basic forest. Tell me about, like, why is Omnath a good take here compared to some of the other options?
I think Omnath is the card that can go, that produces maybe even a bigger upside. But I was going to say Renin 6 produces the biggest upside, but it's going to take a lot of time. Whereas Omnath is the card that's going to yield the biggest advantage in the medium run. I kind of discarded the Expressive Iteration just because of the immense mana investment, and it's not quite clear whether it's really going to produce something. So it's between Omnath and Renin 6, and I can see why you would want to take Omnath. It's just the most annoying card in the middle run, and then you hope if Renin 6 comes down. It technically doesn't really stop your assault, right? It might like tickle some of the creatures, it might get back some of the lands. But whereas Omnath, that's like a wall, and that makes it so that your primary game plan might be threatened unless you produce some insane card advantage.
Yeah, very interesting. Omnath may be also harder to respond to once or to deal with once it's in play and out of the black-red color combination deck. But we're going to see the follow-up play here. It's going to be red and 6, and that is going to most likely buy back a Besage. So that's the double bind, right? By taking the Omnath, you now allow this line to happen where red and 6 will secure Besage for any future Blood Moons. And I mean, Connor is not going to be happy about that.
Yeah, I was wondering whether you Connor would consider running out the season Paramount instead. Because it didn't really feel like Nicole had a straight answer to that, and could also like produce some more. Okay, now maybe Connor is just like valuing the Paramancer so highly and wanted to use the ability to get some more value out of it on the next turn and present some mana available. So Nicole would think twice about trying to do something with it.
And it looks like the Pyromancer has actually picked up a copy of Fury too, which is exactly what Connor wants to see in this board state. Now, what's really interesting to me, now this might just be like poetic justice, we'll call it that, right? Did you know, Julian, that Connor actually swapped Will Kruger out of his pod for Nicole Dubin? And now this is great to see because Nicole is just like, you made a mistake here today, right? 16 players and you picked the one person that was going to beat you in the first round. This is great.
Dude, I love that we're doing this. I absolutely love that we're doing this. This is gonna make some more super interesting storylines. Imagine if Nicole actually really takes out Connor here. Connor is gonna feel like, oh, dude, I'm not sure I should have done that. Like, it's definitely gonna give more motivation to Nicole, I would think, right? Like, if somebody takes me out of the other pool and they're like, hey, I want to play the shooting, I'm like, dude, I'm gonna try everything to really like beat you here. Like, this is not what you do with me.
Yeah, exactly, right? So that's really interesting. And honestly, it might also just be like the matchup too a little bit, but I have to say, like 16 players here, at the end of the day, every single player is like, if I got paired against any of these players, I would be sweating before the match starts. And so it's good to see that, we have this sort of upset, right? Like that Connor, the player of the year, made a decision. Nicole now basically running away with the game here with red and 6 ticking up to 5. We see expressive iteration now on the stack. Connor does have that copy of Fury, which may be able to temper the board a little bit, but Nicole's going to find a Teferi off of this expressive iteration, and that is uncastable actually, now that I think about it.
And here comes the Fury. Fury's going to take out red and 6. And it's looking pretty good for Connor right now here. Like, we got the serious beatdown going on, and Nicole, what does Nicole have here? I think we still know about the Otawara and a bunch of cards. So it's the age of game, right? Of board advantage versus card advantage. Who's going to come out ahead? And usually that's decided by tempo. Nicole down to 12, red and 6. I mean, not exactly great.
Yeah, turn 5, like what I would be most afraid of is seeing something like 5th land pass, right? And then would telegraph like a Solitude. That would be insane on this board state. But now, this is actually looking... I mean, if Connor just chooses to go face, what do you like? Do you like going after the Planeswalker here, or do you just like dealing...
No. I would certainly go to the face.
Ooh, and it kicked Torok?
Oh man, the card is actually doing a lot of work here, especially if Nicole is gonna be sitting on as many cards as she has. And we get our protection from white creature here. This makes me want to go face even harder now.
Nicole has like 6 cards in hand, maybe 5 cards in hand. Connor, you can see just the one card right there under his arm. And now I figured out, okay, the other day I asked, why is Rakdos Scam playing like, Ob Nixilis? And then Twitter was just like, well, that's the scam of the deck. And I'm just sort of realizing, like if Connor is able to steal this game, he's really living up to the deck name.
When I first heard about the name, I was like, is this what it's about? And I mean, it certainly feels like it, right? Whenever you play against it and they get to pull off all their scammy things. Okay, yeah. And now we're going to take out 2 cards here.
Notably, Endurance going to be flashed into play in response to the Torok trigger. Nicole saying this Endurance is better off in play than Wrist being in the graveyard. And it looks like Boseiju and Sacred Foundry are going to hit the bin here. So honestly, with a red and 6 in play, that's not even that bad. Now the question is, how does that change attacks?
We still know about Otawara, or at least Connor knows about Otawara, and I think the other card should be an unknown. Okay, we just forced the jump block. Actually, it's not even a jump block. We just forced the trade. I mean, what Nicole could technically do is like Otawara every single turn, but that's not where you want to be. That's eating up all of your mana, and it's really only gaining you life while giving Connor additional comes into play effect. So that's certainly not. So the Otawara really like a last resort. If you got nothing else to do, if you want to stay alive, I guess you can do that. Or if you have some spare mana. Other than that, we're looking at the graveyard right now, almost like desperate to find something, as the red and 6 doesn't really like. That's what you talked about earlier, right? When we were talking about Omnath. Like if you had Omnath in play here, I think that would be maybe not a completely different game, but very much more in favor for Nicole, as the graveyard doesn't really
gaining
help all that
life,
much here.
generating mana. Even you get drawing an extra card is just.
And there's the Solitude. There's a 5 or rather even 6 mana pass that we're probably about to see. But critically not able to deal with Turret Dread Cantor.
Is that another Fury in Connor's hand?
That's how you play Magic, man.
What is this? Can't possibly be. Oh my goodness, yeah.
It's the Players' Championship for a reason, man.
Yeah, like best player of the year in the 2022 NRG Series circuit, and he's showing us why. Take notes, everybody at home right now. If you're watching, this is how you play the game.
We don't top deck lands here. We just like top deck 5 mana elemental spells. I mean, this is pretty, or is it that straightforward? Yeah, I think you just run it out. And I guess one way Nicole could try is to just like race the game, because oh, never mind.
And this is really good. Yeah, Fury going to take care of the Solitude. No life gained. Nicole down to 3, and there's a pro-white creature in play that you have to basically draw exactly Lightning Bolt for, and Nicole's going to scoop it up. Connor, wiping sweat off his brow, or perhaps just always had it, was never worried for even a second. Most likely the latter here, but we're going back to a decisive game 3 here in the Rakdos Scam against 4-color mid-range matchup. Now, the real question is, Julian, now that we've seen a couple sideboard elements from both decks, how do we want to approach game 3? Do we see any changes? For example, Lightning Bolt. What do you think now?
Yeah, I think both players should be quite comfortable in how they sideboard it. There shouldn't be like really any new revelations. What I really liked was that Connor just saw what's going on Nicole's side, saw that there's a turn to answer to your Blood Moon, and he just ran it out anyways. He was like, you know what? I'm not going to need my Blood Moon. I just like all these creatures. There's just going to be so much value. I just like got this extra gimmick that can randomly steal the game. Lightning Bolt, it's awkward, right? If you try to hit the Turret Dread Cantor, you're probably going to need Dread and 6. I think it's going to be a 4/4, right? If you discard 2 cards, it's out of Lightning Bolt range. You might still need it, even though on the play it's a little easier to deal with Round1. So that's one of the scariest cards that we're going to see out of Connor early on.
Being able to take care of something like a Fury also very important. I mean, I feel like every game that we've seen so far, what ends up happening is that the scam elements, for example, the Undying elements, have seemed to not really mattered as much in this matchup. And now what we're just doing is we're just like putting 6 lands into play and just swiping right, putting elemental after elemental after elemental into play. And honestly, that seems like a pretty good game plan. Let's take a look at Nicole's decks to see if there are any adjustments that we may want to make. One card that we noticed that was interesting that you had a little bit of contention about was Chalice of the Void. Does your opinion on this deck, on that card, change now that we've seen how game 2 played out? The first.
I think you probably can't bring it in. We just talked about Lightning Bolt, right? And your own Lightning Bolts resolving are going to be so critical. And we didn't even see any Undying effects out of O'Connor, so maybe he actually took out some of them. So yeah, I'm not too high on Shadows here. Other than that, maybe Supreme Verdicts, I'm kind of torn on those still. Endurance is kind of cool. I don't think there's any crazy changes that you really want to make. I'm not a big fan of the Eladamri's Call. It's just like a little bit more clunky. Maybe it's more like a filler card that you would very often take out. You know how you sometimes see that in main decks where you're not sure how to build your decks, or rather include sideboard cards. So if you fill a card in the main deck, and then in game 2 and 3 you take it out and you bring in the cards that you really want.
Okay, and then let's take a look at Connor's deck list one more time as the players are almost done shuffling up. What do we have here from the Rakdos Scam side? Any sort of adjustments? We did see some number of Blood Moons. Maybe that gets adjusted going into game 3. What other cards? Did we say Fable, Croxa, Seasoned? I don't know if we saw any of those cards notably. Actually, you know what? I take it back. Pyromancer, Seasoned Pyromancer has been phenomenal so far in this match. Every single time, Connor's just been going like dirt low on resources and then just straight up drawing 2 cards off the Pyromancer, and that's been incredible.
From what I've seen, I would actually be inclined to, take out a lot of my synergistic cards and really just bring on in all the value that you got. Like go toe-to-toe with them for all the value that you have. You got Troll, which was super hard to handle. You got Blood Moon for making the game a lot harder for them, in even Seasoned Pyromancer. And later on, you still have Fable, right? If Fable goes ultimate, that still is going to give you a lot of synergies with your comes to play abilities. if that ever comes to that. So Connor knows more about the matchup than I do for sure. But I don't know. I'm pretty addicted to just running out all the value I can find.
Most important question right now, Julian. Who do you think is going to take game 3 here in the first match of the championship event? Also in the chat right now, let me know who you think is going to win. Connor Mullaly on Rakdos Scam, the player of the year, or Nicole Dubin, the underdog, who Connor put into his pod with the hope of playing against, with the hope of beating. Let me know right now what you guys think. Julian, where's your money at?
I just love Rakdos Scam so much, dude. I kind of want to say it's Rakdos Scam. Even though Connor's on the draw, of course, that makes it quite a bit harder. But I think Rakdos Scam is going to take this. If he's willing to go turn 1 Grief pitch here, what do you think is actually, what does he set up for here? Like, usually you wouldn't, I guess you're trying to steal Ren and 6 because you don't want to see that coming down the second turn. That's the main reason. Is there anything else?
I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm hoping this Grief gets rid of a Solitude and then gets sent to the graveyard and then comes straight back and takes another card, and we just have fireworks. We have yet to actually see the true scam come into play. And let's see, it's going to reveal a hand of Lightning Bolt, Omnath, Ren and 6, and 3 lands here.
So if Connor snaps off the Lightning Bolt, we know what's happening, right?
Yeah, now keep in mind, we do have a de facto play. Both times we've seen Connor discard previously, it's been getting rid of an Omnath. I wonder, oh, it's Bolt is gone. It wasn't even fast. And there it is. That's the scam, baby. Let's go.
The scam is coming off. Discard 2 cards, 4 power on the first turn. Let's go, dude. Oh, Nicole really needs to top deck something here. Like the 4 power, especially in Modern, where you're probably going to take like something like 3 to 4 damage out of your mana base very soon. I don't know, like Omnath could be straight up too slow here. And I mean, Connor still also gets to play the game. Like Connor already presented an insane clock, and Nicole right now is trying to resolve a 4-drop that doesn't even do anything on the 4th turn.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of last year's championship event where we had, I think it was, I forget who the player was. Maybe Rob Hayes on Elementals. I'm sorry if I got the name wrong. And we just saw like the turn 1 Fury exiling a red card, Ephemerate, 6/6/6. And the game was just over out of the Elementals deck. Here it is, Grief coming in, putting Nicole down to 16. A lot of pressure here. No turn 2 play because the Ren 6 was taken. Nicole, the burden is on you now.
There's a Fury
to have something for this Grief.
Pretty sure I saw a Fury picked up, which would require the only other business card that you have, Omnath, to be pitched. And that's a really big decision to make. There's, I think, an Otawara in her hand as well, which would be the turn 4 play to get rid of the Grief. But of course, that's not really something that feels great here. Nicole really caught between a rock and a hard place here. You might want to Fury it away, but is that like at that point that Grief kind of traded like 4 for 1 or something? It's just like beyond reasonable.
Okay, yeah, well, there it is. Fury's going to pitch the Omnath here. That's going to take care of the Grief, and maybe we have stabilized now. But the question is, what else is in Connor's hand here? Again, this is still somewhat of the early game. Connor's still got a boatload of threats in hand. Oh, did Connor miss a... No, sorry. Okay, this is Nicole's turn 3. Connor still has to go to turn. I just want to make sure that Connor does hit the 3rd land. That's going to be absolutely essential.
Interestingly, Nicole playing that Breeding Pool untapped. Of course, trying, I guess, to keep up Bosichu. And Connor might just run out Blood Moon. No. Oh, we're going for Dash Dragavan here. Sweet.
Uh-oh. Okay, if a shocked Breeding Pool to me signals maybe Endurance. Ooh, that's a good steal.
So you're saying we're basically representing Endurance? Because I think Nicole actually doesn't have it, as far as I can tell. I mean, you could, right? It's certainly a statement.
There was also the Triumph that you could potentially cycle as well.
Okay. Lightning Bolt, we're not going to cast that. Okay. And there's an expressive iteration, I believe, being picked up here. I mean, the board is pretty clear now. You could try to go for it, but you would certainly need to find something like a basic forest here first, right? Otherwise, you're really opening up yourself to a Blood Moon, which we know Connor actually has.
Yeah, Blood Moon is such a gamble because sometimes, it's like it's in game 2 for the shock value. Kind of like how Storm players have that relationship with Empty the Warrens. If you know, you know. But yeah, Blood Moon might be a 4 of in the or a 3 of in the post board games. It could also just be a 1 or a 0 of. It really depends on how, Nicole expects Connor to sideboard, what kind of reads you get when you're live in the match. It's really interesting dynamic, actually.
Yeah, I guess you could really make an argument for it not being good enough on the draw, even though if it's not good enough on the draw here, there's very few matchups where I guess it would be even better. Nicole right now, what is Nicole trying to do here now? Trying to find the perfect mana base. Dude, this is so much easier in Legacy. You just figure out whether you want duels or you want basics, but here you have to figure out which duels you want. I guess who am I talking to? Like, you still have to figure out which duels you want.
It's a Tundra and a Taiga, and I'm super happy. And I don't see any of those combinations. No blue-white, no red-green. I see a Plateau, a Savannah, and the Tropical Island, and I'm just like, that's not me. But Expressive Iteration is now on the stack. You're right. This is a moment to breathe here for Nicole. We're going to have to find something pretty good. We'll see how that goes.
And we find another Expressive Iteration in a land. We still have the land drop available, I believe, so we can just like put that straight into play. Yeah.
Now, most notably, Nicole is at 9 life, and that against the red deck with a hasty Ragavan, bang! Blood. Okay, I mean it's not that scary because there's a 2 fetches.
But the thing is, there's no run in 6 in play, and Connor is sitting on 2 more Blood Moons, even though he's gonna need to top deck another land to cast the other ones. And it's certainly going to constrict Nicole's mana in the long run. She might have an answer to this one. But if this gets taken out by, say, Busichu, then Connor's going to have the mana available to cast. But maybe we're just going to, machine gun out Blood Moons here. Just Blood Moon, next turn Blood Moon, next turn Blood Moon. And eventually Nicole is going to be in a position where she won't maybe be able to cast the more impactful Planeswalkers she has with the Plains and the Forest. Like, I'm looking very far into the future right now here, but... I mean, it feels like this is Connor's game plan right now.
I can tell you right now, with Blood Moon in play, Nicole has no access to blue mana, and there's most definitely an old border Expressive Iteration in the hand there for her, and that can't be cast. So there's a chance here that Connor is just gonna again just steal the game here with this Rakdos scam deck. Okay, we're cycling the Ketria Chime, and we're gonna this is Ketria Chime, right? We're gonna draw Terminus off the top. Oh no, tapping the never mind.
Didn't even reveal it. No miracle trigger. Okay.
Yeah, I remember the time Joe got mad at me because I didn't check the top card of my library when I brainstormed on someone's end step.
As he should. Yeah, right now this is really awkward for Nicole. She's probably, if she can ever find that second white, but I don't think there's a second plains. Yeah, there's only single plains. Dude, this is really scary now. We can't even use Otawara because we don't have blue mana. We literally are drawing towards 2 Busichu, and what else do we have here? 1 Leyline Binding. Is that it?
Well, Kahira is not so bad here. Kahira, you put that in your hand. You drew Solitude for the turn. That's a very good draw, and that's going to get rid of the Ragavan, which, by the way, would have been lethal this turn because Nicole doesn't know this, but we see copy of Lightning Bolt in Connor's hand. Oh. And Cryptic Command on the Veil of Summer.
Nicole's still fighting, right? Still getting all the value that you can, while Connor's only sitting there on 2 lands. There's a Fury and I think 2 more Blood Moons in Connor's hand. It looks like he's not going to be doing anything for a while, even though if Nicole ever drops down to 3 life, the game is going to be instantly over.
Right. So this is basically just like 1 more hit. We see Nicole has drawn a copy of Lightning Bolt. Is that a prismatic ending? That's a prismatic ending for the Blood Moon.
The reversal. Okay, Nicole finding a way back into the game. But is she must be careful, right? She sees that Connor isn't casting anything. She could expect that there's a couple of like expensive cards stuck in Connor's hand. But I think she's definitely going to give credit to a Lightning Bolt because she can also afford to do that with that mana base she's running right now here.
And Connor Mullaly, MVP of the 2022. You're stuck on 2 lands in the first match here. This is a heartbreaker situation if you're on the scam side of things. I mean, we saw multiple Blood Moons. We see Fury. There's Expressive Iteration now coming down for Nicole. This might have been the critical draw step, like finding the Solitude, picking up the Kahira, back-to-back like outs here. This is hype. Oh my God.
And we find the Round 6 as well, right? So that's another way for Nicole to actually pull ahead now. And I hope it's not going to come down to the classic Lightning Bolt from the top, bolt you, pass, bolt you.
I want to see it happen. Show me the fireworks. Who's better?
Thoughtseize going to take. Thoughtsy's going to take care of the Red 6, I would guess. And then Nicole is back to all... Oh, no, not all lands in hand. Okay, removal spell and... Oh, looks like we didn't even take the round 6. Okay, sweet. So it's gonna be Lightning Bolt and Prismatic Ending against a fistful of cards, but nothing to do for Nicole right now. I think I would guess Nicole would be happy to find something like a Solitude, right? So she can like pull herself out of like double bolt range or something.
That would be a very, I mean, at that point, then I think, Connor would be almost forced to bolt the Solitude, and there goes the burn plan. But, what's also really interesting, Connor, top deck the Thoughtseize does have, it doesn't stop, Julian. These draws are so good.
And Nicole's going straight for the extra card. It's like, I don't respect anything you could play here. What are you going to do with like 2 mana, even 3 mana? I'm just going to sit here, have removal for everything you got. I can Prismatic Ending on your turn as well, soon. And yeah, Connor, I guess you could run out Turaj because that will not be touched. And what does Nicole have? We saw a Lightning Bolt. I guess that's an easy way to get rid of it. I guess you can still take the draw step. She's got that luxury. Maybe find a Solitude or something. Solitude wouldn't do it, I guess. And
nope,
another expressive iteration.
When
in doubt, expressive iterate.
I hate to say it, but I think Connor is just doomed. With the heat that Nicole is drawing off the top of her deck, there is no way Connor can come back in this. I'm saying it right now. Even with Nicole at 5, this is like the final anime arc where I don't know, the main character is just like a spirit bomb. You know what I'm saying? This is it. Yeah. This is just happening.
This is basically where the floodgates are opening on Nicole's side. Connor came so close. He had a dash Draga one. He could literally reach for the victory, and then Nicole shuts him down. And over the next couple of turns, completely bursts the dam and floods him in value. And at this point, Connor might even consider whether he's gonna be going for something like main phase bolt and then pray to draw another bolt, because Nicole is spinning out of control quickly.
Yeah, I am. Honestly, this is you have to imagine, right? If you're thinking about this, very competitive. What is the best draw that Connor could have right now? We have Fury, Blood Moon, a Lightning Bolt in hand, no third land, and it's almost turn 8. You see Fury here pitching Blood Moon. Probably going to take care of both of the Planeswalkers.
Yeah. Probably one of the best Furies I've ever seen. And it's still not going to be good enough for Connor.
That's disgusting to think about.
But yeah, honestly, if I'm Connor, I would seriously consider just end-stepping that Lightning Bolt at some point. Because there's nothing worse than drawing another Lightning Bolt and yeah, then that happens. Is there going to be a land drop? There must be a land drop available, right?
I mean, Ren and 6 ticked up. Yeah, there must definitely be. And I mean, honestly, this is at this. There's the Solitude. Yeah, this. Okay, this is. You know what? All right, I'm not gonna call it here. I was thinking about the Simpsons meme with Ralph saying "Stop, he's already dead." You know what I mean? But but I think Connor, being as good as Connor is, might be able to do something here. We'll see. Let's see what happens here. Windswept Keith's going to fetch.
It's going to be a big uphill battle now, because Nicole still at 4, being able to go up to 8 now. The Lightning Bolt is probably not going to win you the game anymore. So now you have to play a real game to get there. And you're up against so many more cards. I think the first step for Connor would be to find a land. Probably cast Fable, I would guess. That's just an all-star of getting back into the game. Season Paramount's another one, even though you have a lot of cards that you really want. There's even a scenario where you discard your Lightning Bolt to a Fable Pyromancer now. But Nicole happy, right? Nicole is sitting here. I'm out of double Lightning Bolt range. I got another Planeswalker, because why would I not? Oh man. Connor putting up quite a fight with 2 lands here, but it looks like it's not going to be enough. Right, the third land finally. Okay, we're still in the game. It's not completely over. And is that, yeah, that's Fable. I like that, especially since the fairy ticked down. Right, we're not gonna get rid of the token right away. It's probably gonna be eaten up by something like a Solitude, I would guess. Oh, we're just flashing this in end step. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit terrifying. This to me signals that Nicole might just be ready to end the game. You know, when the control player in the matchup turns their creature sideways, it's like you can feel the gravity of the play, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, Connor sitting on 14 after a couple of Thoughtseizes fetch lands. That Solitude is that Endurance is gonna get him down to 11. Does Nicole still sit on the Lightning Bolt? I think no, but we'll see. It's not even quite clear whether Connor will be able to raise just what you call the cow, right? The 3/4 reach.
It's a cow, objectively. It's a cow.
I like to call it Southern Elephant, but I mean, cow works as well for me. Oh, that's Solitude, man. Like, that's the hardest card to play through here. I guess if Connor gets to a 4th mana, if I remember correctly, he had a Torach Dread Centaur still in hand, which could do something, as it's quite hard to touch.
And look at this. Nicole is going to cast Prismatic Ending, targeting the Fable here, saying you get no reprieve. Nothing for you today, Connor. You made the mistake of putting me in your pod. Meet your maker.
And that's going to be, I guess, a Dash Dragobon. Going to try to take out the Teferi. That's probably going to, yeah. Easy, got that covered.
This is a great storyline. I'm so excited. I mean, it's really interesting because I think there was a draw step where Connor maybe, if he drew the 3rd land, maybe just like 1-2 turns sooner, a lot could have been done to not be in this position anymore. But yeah, now look at this. Now we have the other Lightning Bolt. It's not going to face anymore. That dream is dead. It's going to go after the Solitude. But there's still Teferi. There's still Endurance. There's still so many lands in play.
Yeah, and we see Seasoned Paramount on Connor's hand, and we also see a Fury. So it's not completely over, but as we said, Nicole is sitting pretty here. Like, this is... The good thing is, if you're about to pass the turn and there's nothing that your opponent could play here that really scares you, and in that case, you might even have it covered with Teferi. That's just like a really good place to be. And yeah, from Connor's side, I guess if he's gonna hit a couple of really good draw steps while Nicole floods a little bit, Nicole doesn't really have anything in play that produces incremental value over time, like now, let's say Chase or Renin 6. But a 3/4, super annoying for Connor's deck to deal with in the first place, I guess. Yeah, it's really gonna be about maybe whether you can run that. Never mind, I was gonna say run out that Dread Cantor for like full value, but Fury, like random hardcast Fury, this is Nicole going for the throat. Like, this is Connor, I'm gonna take you down. You put it, like, you know that meme about I'm not trapped in here with you. You are trapped in here with me. And that's what Nicole is doing right now.
Yeah, this is the 3rd alt casted Fury here. Connor with no cards in hand, gonna get rid of the first Fury and then deal 1 damage to the Teferi. No cards in hand, 3 mana. Nicole has the World in front of her, swinging in for 3 here with the Endurance, with a hand of, is that a Veil of Summer?
Yeah, I was gonna say it looked like the Veil of Summer.
Dude, there it is, the first top deck. This is how we do it. All right, don't count them out yet. Seasoned Pyromancer in play here, gonna cast a Thoughtseize.
Oh, and that's gonna get wild, right?
Well, we're fetching.
What are you fetching in response here?
Maybe we don't want to draw whatever we're fetching for. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like maybe a try.
Good mechanics. Good. You love to see it.
If Connor sees that, right? Connor has experience. He knows what's up. That means that must be a Veil of Summer coming down here. Easy. 1 mana. Like, who's that Cryptic Commando with a 4 mana spell? Counter, draw a card. My favorite mode.
That card is just rude by every metric. I'm just gonna say it. I know you're thinking it. I'm just gonna say it out loud. Yeah.
I remember when that card was spoiled, when I talked about it on my podcast, I was completely blown away, and everybody else was just like, I don't know if this is gonna see play. And I mean, fair enough, this card is actually not seeing play all that much in Legacy anymore, even though it's kind of crazy, but that's more of a testament to how crazy the format is. But overall, 1 green mana, completely insane. And Connor has seen enough.
And wow, that's absurd. Yeah, I mean, you can see it in that 1 turn. 2 mana for the Renin 6, 3 mana to cycle the Triome, 4 mana to play Omnath, and then Priceless to get the scoop from Connor there. And that is such a great feeling. Nicole Dubin going to take the first round here of the NRG Series Championship event in 2022. Welcome back to the booth. My name is Rakdos, and I'm here with Julian Knopf. That was an exciting match. I'm going to see if we can get word of the backup match from our director here, just to see how that is going, because that was also a pretty hype match. But wow, I got to say,
way to start off the first round.
Yeah, very, very tight play here by Nicole. Looks like actually what we're going to do is cut to a quick short break. We'll be back in just a few moments. But yeah,